We're back. It's a Tuesday night. Seems like it's Wednesday or Thursday. It's already been a long week. Buddy Martin, the program is about to be on the air again tonight. Believe it or not, Miracle of Miracles. We'll be joined by David Whitley, Lauren Meadows, and maybe others. You never know what may happen on the Buddy Martin Show. I'm leaving you with this question. When is enough enough? When do you decide you've had enough? Think about that. We'll come back and talk about it right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Joining us, be sure, and weigh in. Good evening, Dan Bond, others. Let's talk a little sports and Gator sports right here on the Buddy Martin Show.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
To the program. I'm Buddy Martin here in my new studio with my flower wallpaper. Please don't make fun of me again, all right? We're getting there. We're moving. We're getting new stuff coming here. So it's going to be a good night tonight. I'm going to make it a good night tonight because you know what? Sometimes you just have to do that, right? I'm asking a question tonight as we await David Whitley's the interview we did earlier tonight. By the way, that massacre of a baseball game last time I looked, it was 10-5 still in the 8th inning. So FSU beating up on the Gators, they've got problems. We can talk about that or not, but our guys are covering that tonight, and we're here. And David Whitley will be joining us, and then we've got Lauren Meadows. And my question to you is one of the philosophical questions. Sometimes I like to dig a little bit and see what you're thinking and what you stand for. And that is that, do you ever get to a certain point in life where something important that you care about changes so drastically that you say, I've had it, I'm done, I can't do this anymore? Of course you do. But sometimes there are big things and big decisions, things that cut at the heart of your very passion in life, the things that you believe in, that you have to let go of, and that's hard. The things you believed in all these years, you thought were right, and all of a sudden things are changing, culture's changing, you're thinking, what is going on in the world? Is it me or is something wrong here? We have been through a tumultuous 4 or 5 years in sports, not the least of which is all the changes in coaches, and certainly Florida and Dan Mullen going, and of course we know what's happened since then, and now we're trying to get used to Billy Napier and stuff's not working, etc. Well, anyway, you hope you can hang in there, and that's what the song means in all kinds of weather, right? Is that just poppycock? Is that just talk? Does that really matter? Do people really believe in that? And the reason I'm bringing it up tonight was it's a little bit disturbing what Nick Saban has said in his sort of so-called exit interview, which is not really what it was. He said some more things today in Washington, D.C., and it's disturbing what was going on underneath for him. He was like the duck syndrome thing they talk about in psychology, where a duck is sitting along the top of the water and looking like he's doing good and smooth, and underneath he's paddling like crazy just to keep going. And so there's a lot of pressure today in this world, and especially in sports where there's high money, and certainly Saban had plenty of that. But anyway, if you heard about it, Saban said some things, and I'll get into that in just a minute. I think it's important because this is our greatest coach, so-called, all right? He's the GOAT. And if he is saying that what's happened to the game strikes at the very core values of what I believe in, I just can't do this anymore. We've heard those things, but we've never heard them quite so graphically. Let me show you this right here while we wait for our interview with David. He said There's a quote from him, I think, online, talking about why he decided not to coach. And I'm basically paraphrasing the story, but he says every year the mothers and fathers of the recruits come to his house where he and Miss Terry invite them for breakfast. And they sit down and talk, and they want to get at the core of their philosophy and their beliefs and try to help them develop as young men. And it says it's very important that the parents understand they care for their sons, and he wants them to know they'll be in good shape and whatever, and their core values are really important. Well, what's happened is apparently some people believe the core values have changed. I don't know if you feel that way or not. Maybe you don't want to hear me preach about it tonight, and I won't, but just want to say one thing. Saban said, in the last time they hosted the recruits, his wife, Miss Terry, who's a great coach's wife, said, why are we doing this? The only thing they care about is how much money they want to make. That's Terry saying it, not Nick. And of course, Nick is aware of it. So I'm not saying the kids are all bad because, look, the money's out there. It's there. It's why not have some of it? And they waited too long. They should have done something years ago. But nonetheless, if the core values start shifting, the paradigm of what you believe in starts shifting, and you can't teach what you don't believe, you got a problem. And that's what Nick Saban's telling me. This is why he got out. At least that's what I understand it. So, yeah, something to think about. And if he's doing that, feeling that way, then who else is feeling that way? Other coaches? I think so. Yeah. So I see some of your comments on here from Perry and Dan and Robert, etc. And I love you guys commented on it. Yeah, the score 12-5 in his eighth. Thank you, Dan. Gators getting hammered by the Knowles tonight. Anyway, that's one of the things that we will talk about. Saban said, this is one before comment. His quote was, he was in Washington talking to Senator Cruz today. He said, Bryce Young had a Nissan deal that was a national deal. He had a BMW deal that was a national deal. He had a Dr. Pepper deal. He earned those. That's what NIL was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be an opportunity for us to create something to pay the players. Now, on that I agree. And we said it all along from the get-go when they started out saying, well, it's not going to be an inducement to recruit. Are you kidding me? Of course it was going to be all along. Saban says he believed it to be that, but it didn't work out, but it did. Anyway, that's what it's about. All right, so a lot of good comments by Dan and Robert and Perry. You guys joined our comments. It'd be great to hear you on there. And we'll post some of the better ones. But right now, it's time to go talk to our sponsors, our friends at Meldon Law, who get it right a lot most of the time. And here's what they want to tell you. Jeffrey Meldon. Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV, but after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon. Well, we're back in the romper room. Looks like here we have new wallpaper, new decorations, and same old David Whitley. He's on the move once again. David, how you doing, my friend?
Good. I like that wallpaper. It is quite a new look for you.
Yeah, I think it's going to go away. But right now, as I moved into my new studio here in Panama City in the front room, this is what my wife said I can use for right now. Later on, I have a nice little terrific sketch I'm going to put up there. But for right now, for you and me today, we're doing this in front of flowery wallpaper. There's something almost a proper pro about that. about us talking with flowered
Yeah.
wallpaper. But speaking of apropos and talking, of all the interest, all the stories that broke this week and things that have happened, basketball kind of hanging in the balance and trying to get that SEC thing taken care of and hold on to that number 6 seed, etc. The one that struck me, I don't know about you, it seemed like you would, was the fight that broke out in the women's basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen your column this week, but man, it seems like it's not getting to a point where I went to a women's basketball game, or I went to a fight tonight and a women's basketball game broke out. However that joke goes. So did you watch any of that video? Did you see that happen?
Oh, yeah. And I think that's what got me to watch. I'll admit, I am a Neanderthal somewhat when it comes to women's basketball. I have been over the years.
Mm-hmm.
These guys that said, well, it just didn't intrigue me much because I compared it to the men's game too,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a different game. But I'm coming around, part of it is the Caitlin Clark phenomenon.
Wow. She's amazing, isn't she?
Yeah. And you can see how the whole sport is really gaining momentum. And I mean, it's a great thing, and I'm happy to see it. But I still don't make it like appointment viewing unless Caitlin Clark is playing.
I'm with
you
on that.
Yeah. And I wasn't watching that particular game, but when I heard about the fight, immediately I go to check it out and I go, oh yeah, and when it comes to a sport that's still trying to make a mark on thing, I almost believe that, no publicity is bad publicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if they'd have just played that game out and South Carolina had won by 6 points and they shook hands at the end of the game and blah, 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 it would have gotten, a few, 100,000 maybe, or a few thousand views and stuff. But this became a big story because of that. And on that aspect, I think it's good. I'm not coming out for, anybody slugging each other or fights or mayhem or like, I don't want the sport to turn into like the Malice at the Palace. Remember that game?
Lambert.
Yeah. But I think that when the average sort of fan who's not a fan of women's basketball sees that, it tells them, hey, these girls are competitive. One thing they don't like is they see that, male toxicity, it's cutthroat, competitive, blah, blah, blah. Women, okay, maybe not so much. But if you've seen it, and, this isn't the first time this has happened. Florida got into a tussle with Kentucky. Was it earlier this season or I'm not sure, but it was, when I was Googling, man, that came up too. And I think it shows people that, these girls throw down. They're serious about it.
They do.
They want to get down.
I was talking to Shane Matthews on his show, and he said he used to go over there back in the days of the old Alligator Alley.
Yeah.
The old gym. We called it Florida Gym, but back in his day. And then they had the side boards there for other games, like during the tournaments, state tournament, they play several games at once, but they let people scrimmage and play games, pickup games on the side. And Shane, who fancies himself somewhat of a hoopster, went over there, and there's quite a few women playing, and he decided one day he'd go shoot with the ladies. Okay. He tried it a couple of times. It got too rough for him. He couldn't take it. He said, it was rough. He said, those girls were rough. And you look at the size. One of the big things, this Camila Cardoso being so big, apparently Flo J. Johnson with what they call a violent shove, and then things got close to a brawl, and the brother comes down out of the stands. And man, we got stuff going on there, and so he was taken away by security and later charged with third-degree assault. How about that? Third-degree assault in a women's basketball game. And of course, Mulkey, she's pretty feisty anyway, She was the one. If you read about her background, she started out in LSU and she wanted to play baseball, and they wouldn't let her. And her father filed a lawsuit, but so she could play with the guys. And she's always never backed down, of course. But she didn't come off. Cardoso. The size problem is one of the things she didn't like. You're 6'8", you don't push somebody that little. And so she was upset about that, but she's not exactly blameless either. But
No.
and Dawn Staley, she's a baller. I mean, she'll get after you. So
Yeah, that's just it. These two coaches epitomize that. I mean,
yeah.
they were said, the requisite things about apologizing. This isn't us, but that if you could put these two teams in a wrestling ring, it would turn into WrestleMania. I mean, they do not like each other.
I'd go see it. I'd see.
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I would. Yeah. I mean, it's a rivalry between those. There's bad blood to be had, and I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. The Mulkey, she reading between the lines, she was like, I want to meet him in the back alley here, and I think
she's ready. She'll throw down right now. Yeah.
I mean, that's great. If two male coaches said that, people are, oh yeah, bring it on. I want to see that. I mean, again, there's not a line to be drawn, but I think it on balance, it's a plus what happened. And seeing that, especially since nobody got hurt. Now, I mean, if the crazy wacky brother had slugged somebody, you can't have that kind of nonsense. But just if you keep it on the court and just the rival between the two schools and the participants, and I mean, Cardoso shouldn't. There's something to be said for you're 6'8", you don't come over and push over a 5'9" girl, but it's heat of the moment stuff. And you're losing it. You get emotional. You get carried away, just like guys do.
Yeah, Franz Beer said he hated to get in a bar fight with Carmelo Cardoso on the other side. So there you go.
Yeah, and you're, I have sort of a Shane story myself. When I was in Orlando, the WNBA team was having tryouts, so to get publicity, they invited me to come out and try out just to see. And so I show up there, and it's like 30 women, and they all are, played college ball. And I come wandering in, and let's just say that, I sort of stood out.
The cut off jeans and the U.S. kids.
Yeah. I was probably 15 years older than the youngest one there, or the oldest one there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a woman. But I played a lot of ball, and I'm like 6'3", at the time, and so I thought, well, I can hang. But man, I got in there, and it was like a rock'em sock'em battle, and I mean, they were just whacking, and I was like, after a while, I was like, no mas. It is serious ball. I mean, they were playing for a livelihood, and to get noticed, and they were having no mercy on me. And I mean, it is. I mean, unless you are a real, like, legit basketball player, you can't just wander out there and say, I'm going to, I'm as good as these women are here. Yeah, because you're not.
Back on the other positive side, the women's numbers are way up now. Those games are. What was that game of the night that Caitlin Collins played in with the highest?
Yeah.
Rank. It was beat the guys in some of the other stuff. So that's good. That's good they're doing that. Now, on to hoops, since we're talking about it, the two stories lying here are, A, what happens to Florida in the SEC tournament this week. We'll get to that in a second. The other thing is, this is a bizarre year. If you're a fan of the Blue Bloods this year and the teams using, guess what? You won't be seeing them. There's a lot of the Blue Bloods gone. Think about who's not there, and including the ones we're used to seeing. And there's no Kansas, no UCLA, unless they pull off a miracle. No Duke, no Villanova, no Kentucky, probably, maybe. At least not in the Final Four. They might get in the tournament, but so that's changed a bunch. So is there a trend? Do you think there's a landscape changing in men's basketball?
Yeah, I think it is directly attributable to just the NIL/portal chaos that's upon us, and how a team can just rebuild and really remake itself. And when and especially in basketball, because all you need is two or three. I mean, like football, where you got 22 guys out there. Basketball, you bring in two or three studs, and I mean, look at Florida's team. I mean, their best three players, Tyrese Samuel, Zion Poland,
Zippy Brown. Oh, you mean the men?
Yeah. They weren't even there last year.
Yeah, and all SEC, by the way.
Yeah, they're all SEC now. And
maybe the two best guards tandem, maybe, and the Florida's ever had, maybe.
Oh yeah, and so that just the way. I mean, it used to be, Duke, Kentucky, those teams, they sign, they get the high school guys and they lock them up the best, and that's where you got your talent. That was your labor pool right there. Yeah. Now the labor pool is so diffuse that, I mean, you bring in, Zion Pull. I mean, he was, 4 years,
What a
guy.
player. What a player.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. He was, they had a media availability earlier today, and he was there along with Todd. And it's sort of funny. He made all SEC first team as voted by the coaches. And then the AP team came out today and he wasn't even on it. And so he's like the first player in Florida history to be voted first team by the coaches and not even make the second team. But it sort of fits in with his whole MO of just being sort of underappreciated. He is just Mr. Steady, Mr. Consistency, and does a lot of things that make huge impact on the game, but don't really make the highlights.
And doesn't turn over the ball and
no.
Shoots efficiently. Great looking player. And speaking of basketball and speaking of the men, I'm still upset about this. I must be the only person in the universe who is. If you watch the game in Vanderbilt, granted they should never have been there. They gave the game away, and it was a game that was right there for the taking. And it came down to the final 4 ticks. Florida's down by 1, side out and under their basket with 4 seconds. And Todd Golden's just come off a string of 2 or 3 really good timeouts and buckets. They've been hot with that kind of thing. And so there's 4 seconds, no timeouts left. So Florida goes out there, puts their guys out, gets ready for their play, runs their set. And Kentucky's basketball coach goes on the floor and stop the play. And so now they have no timeouts left. They've shown their hand. You can't call timeout. You can't reset your play. And what happens? They throw it in and don't get the bucket, and they lose the game. Now I'm not saying that's what lost the game for them, but never mind the terrible call with no foul, that they call. That was another deal. But when the coach goes on the floor and disrupts the flow of the game, they have to call a timeout and stop the clock. Oh, why don't you do it every time?
Yeah,
coaches do it every time. They got to call a technical there,
I thought it was a pretty shrewd move by Jerry Stackhouse. Not exactly.
Well, it was a gamesmanship deal, but the officials should know better than that.
Right. They should. And there's a lot of screwy stuff that went on. But as you said, Florida shouldn't have been in that position anyway. If they'd have taken care of business. But that's sort of the habit of this team. If you're pointing to anything, is that they get a lead and they just can't hold it. And that's the worry going into the tournament. Is that I mean, let's say if we were sitting here next week and we were saying, hey, they won it, I wouldn't be shocked at all. They're definitely good enough to win it. But the way they play, I wouldn't be surprised I'd be pretty surprised they lose the first round game against Georgia or Missouri. Mm-hmm. But second round game, they've shown they can get up on anybody by 15, 20 points. And then it's just a question, can they hang on? And whoever it'll probably be Bama Auburn. It's going to be tough just because they've handled those teams and they know those teams are ready to come back on them. So, but they are definitely good enough to win this whole thing. And they were talking today is well, we asked Todd, says, was this a proverbial wake up call or is that just a cliche? Mm-hmm. He says, well, it's a cliche, but it's also there's truth to it. That. We just got to realize, we can't just show up, and of course now they're saying they won't, but I would be shocked if they don't, come away with at least 2 wins out of this, and unlike last year's, it's not like they're playing for a tournament bid. Now they're playing for a seed, and that's important, on this thing.
It is, and trying to get that 6th seed. They can't. Here's the thing about it: this team has come from out of nowhere. We kind of all thought they could play better. Then they started playing. They started knocking their shots down. Everybody talks with their guards. They're great. Their bigs have been fantastic. Those young bigs are really amazing. And so they're starting to play really good. And they just annihilate Alabama. Annihilate them completely. Mm-hmm. Come out of that figuring to get their heads all swole up, right? But been ranked now for 3 or 4 weeks, top 25. Mm-hmm. They go to Vanderbilt and lose and not even ranked in the top 25 in the country. Come on, man.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen.
No, it's Well, as we said, the same people voting for that are the ones who didn't vote Zion Poland, even second team All SEC.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a habit. You see the regular names up there, and they'll just vote for them. And Florida still, they haven't proven anything nationally. If they make a good run, I mean, this next 4 weeks is where you make your rep, and where people notice you in the tournament, and it's there for them. I don't. I'd be stunned if they make the Final Four, but if they made the second weekend, I think that's Sweet 16. I think anything less than that, they would probably call it a disappointing year.
For sure. Let's switch subjects over to football. There's a little bit there, not a whole lot because they're on spring break now. I had to go to column this week early. I'm sure you did not see it, nor would you want to. I did something I don't normally do. I talked about love at first sight. And I went back in my lifetime and I saw, I've seen a few guys I'd looked at. I'm not an oracle. I'm not Nostradamus, but I've seen guys that I knew were can't miss people. I mean, Tiger Woods at 16, hit it off number 10 and watched him play one hole. That guy's got it. He's got it. He's the real deal. And a blind man could have seen that. Like what you're saying, couldn't pick his brother out of Count Basie's band. Well, I could pick Tiger Woods out of there, and I tell you, that was an amazing thing. And I've had probably maybe 6 or 7 times, things like that in my lifetime where I've mentioned this before, and people are getting sick of it. Shaquille O'Neal, 17, playing LSU. I was blown away. I came back and called my friend in Colorado, a talk show host buddy, and said, I've seen the future of basketball, man. This guy's amazing, okay? Granted, he was talented, and you could see him, he was big, but he was 17. I'm not saying, again, I'm an oracle, but sometimes because you know. I had that feeling on Monday when I saw Florida's new quarterback sensation, DJ Lagway. I'd seen him on video before. I saw his high school highlights. But when I saw him line up under center in that Gator uniform and take that snap with such composure, snap that ball off, and as I tried to describe it, it was like the ball just went to the receiver and stuck on him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, one of those deals, the ball was just going to go and stick on him someplace. A drone took it there and put it, deposited it. And the guy looked so good to me. And I thought, I think this guy's going to be the real deal. He's going to be something special. And I thought people were going to say, you idiot. Well, look, in life, when you have a girlfriend or boyfriend, you fall in love on the first date or the first sight, right? So I may have fallen in love with the first sight, and I'll take all comers to go ahead and criticize me. I love this guy. Unless he gets hurt, something bizarre happens, he is going to be right up. He's a statue guy. I think that's my. Now you say you saw him a couple of. Yeah, I did, and yeah, I do know, and I know because I know. That's how I feel about David. Tell me I'm crazy.
No, I think you're certainly preached to like him because you want to like him, but there's a lot to like there. I was out there for now you talk about appointment viewing. That was appointment viewing. The first glimpse you got of this guy in an actual.
Well, talk about it. Talk about that. When you saw it, what did you see?
Yeah, it was the first practice last Thursday, I think it was. And, we get the usual 18-minute one session to go. So they open up the gate and we all trumble in and they're already doing their routes. And, there's Mertz out there. And, it was interesting to see Mertz because we hadn't seen him since he had his broke his shoulder, but he was looking Mertzian good. And then there had 4 or 5 QBs out there, but you immediately spotted the kid next to him. And they were probably about the 50-yard line. And, he was zinging it, with all the usual qualifications. There were no DBs out there and all that, but it was a good looking pass he was throwing. And then they came closer down to us and jogged down, and you get to look at him, and he is a big dude.
6'4" almost and 240.
Yeah, and but moves because the way he was moving, from far away, we've always associated size with sort of clunkiness. But he looked like 6 foot, 190 pound, move around, fast guy. Then he comes down in close to you, and he just had. In fact, it's been standing next to Matt Baker from Tampa Bay Times. I said,
Yeah.
well, should we call him a thoroughbred or a beast? You don't want to, and he said, well, how about we go with beastly thoroughbred, something like that? Because I mean, he is put together, and big thighs, the whole deal. And you can see where he is not going to be fun to tackle when he gets out in the field. And yeah, the passes were there. So if you're predisposed to liking somebody, like to falling in love, he's the kind of he's good looking enough to where he's going to catch your eye, and you be enamored by him. And of course, I mean, as always, we shall see when the real bullets start flying. But everything they're saying is he let's just say nobody's whispering. He doesn't look like he's cracked up to be. And that it reminds me of when Herschel Walker first went to Georgia. I remember him saying, because he came in as hyped as anybody ever, pretty much. But I remember like that he wasn't doing that much, and for his first preseason. And this was, of course, before guys would graduate early and go in the spring of what should be their senior year in high school. He showed up at fall practice. I remember them thinking, I remember, in fact, reading one of the coaches said, we're afraid, he might just be sort of a big stiff back, because he's run upright, and they still weren't sure.
Yeah.
And then, he got into that first game at Tennessee, and he became a legend. I mean, people still talk about, what he did to Bill Bates,
Wow.
And just put tire tracks on him. And, and Bill Bates ended up being, a long-time NFL guy. And you could see, no, this is a generational player, but so some guys, they don't live up to hype right away, and it takes a while. But man, right now, nobody's having those whispers about DJ Lagway that, because certainly the tools are there. The tools are there.
Yeah, I get the idea that people say that you fall in love with the guy's reputation and whatever. I'm not saying he's Tebow, because Tebow, when he hit the field the first time, I've never heard so much clamoring about a player as first time on the field as Tebow, and probably never will. This kid's not going to necessarily get that. But I think I'm going back to the idea that when you look at somebody, can you see or feel greatness? It's an emotion, not just a thought. It's not necessarily analytics. When someone says, well, you can't judge that guy doesn't have any. Yes, I can. I can judge it because it's my intuition. And I go back to, remember a guy named Charlie Waters who played for the Cowboys?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Charlie Waters told me this story years ago. He got on the plane in Dallas to go into, remember the college All-Star game when they played the All-Star?
In Chicago?
Chicago. He was going to Chicago. Right. He was on a plane that stopped in New Orleans and he said he's sitting back there, and a guy gets on the plane. He walks in, and wearing a cowboy hat, takes it off, puts it up above, straightens his shirt, and Charlie Waters said, now that's a star. You know who it was? Terry Bradshaw. He looked at him at that moment and said, that's a star right there, So my point is, I'm not saying you have to, again, Nostradamus to predict greatness, but you just see somebody that fits something, you think, wow, this guy's the real deal. He really is. So if we're blessed to have that kind of player, it's going to be a fun time, and we'll see how it goes. And I get the fact that I know it's about the fact he's got a guy playing ahead of him who can teach him a lot, which is great. It's a good duo. It's a really great duo to have. I don't know if it makes me feel better about Florida or not. The head ball coach picked them to win 9 games. Did you hear that?
I didn't know. So 9, huh?
On Pat Dilley's show, a week after he was criticized for saying something about the team by a lot of people. By the way, I understand he also confronted you at his Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and asked you about how come you weren't writing about football more. And you told him, because they're not giving us anything to write about.
Yeah. I said there's not much going on, and what has been going on hadn't been that good to write about.
Exactly. So anyway, that's that love at first sight thing. So, all right, takeaways as we get ready to let you get out of here. Takeaways from what little we know so far, think we know about spring football. Seemed like there was a little better feeling about things when Billy had his press conference. People are beginning to get a little bit more positive, I'll say. Not enough to pick them to win 9 games, Steve. I'm sorry. Love you for that. But the bottom line is the mood needs to change. Something needs to change the mood. And we'll see if it's beginning to move. Can we think we'll see a mood change, David?
A lot depends on that orange and blue game because that's the only real thing that fans are going to be able to sink their teeth into. And remember last year how it was, pretty much a defensive, sloppy, really looked like an old, 3 yards cloud of dust ball game. And, and it was sort of pretending what we saw, the trouble with the offensive line. They couldn't block anybody.
It was a night game and Thursday night. It was all messed up. It was just a bad situation. It was no good, and they really let them do the defense do anything they want. They blitzed everything else.
Yeah. It's funny that was about the last time the defense looked any good.
That's true. Got it exactly.
Yeah. So it's one of those, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if they come out and it's the kind of it's a high scoring game, and Mertz and Lagway are tearing it up in spring, people will be very excited. But then you think, what does that say about the defense? But if the defense rips it up, you think, oh man. So I don't know, but ideally you just want them to look more efficient with some blocking on that offense. Because again, that so much depends on that up front. It's the same position as last year where you got some guys coming in who may be good, maybe not. We just don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting spring. Now we got a lot of things going on. The basketball tournament nationally, baseball, FSU, Florida. We've got some good track coming up back in the field. Women's basketball team, I really like Kelly Ray Finley. I just think she's a real deal. They got a rough deal. Their star player got hammered and knocked out of the game right at the crucial time. And Zippy Broughton stepped up and played terrific. They lost the game, unfortunately. They played really good. I'm impressed. Kelly Ray got 3 straight winning seasons or something like that. It's pretty good. So anyway, so there's a lot of good stuff happening in the spring, but they got to move the needle on basketball and they got to move the needle on football for it to be a year that matters, don't they? Yeah,
well, I mean, the needle's there to move here with basketball anyway, but it'll start in 3 days with SEC, and then everybody's sitting around on Sunday night seeing where they're going to go and who they're going to play.
Yeah.
And because that with the NCAA tournament, so much of it is just the bracket and who you end up playing. And right now it's totally unknown how that's going to be. But the next 2 weeks are going to be a lot of appointment viewing in front of TV for basketball. That's for sure.
David, I'm sure you'll be watching a lot of it and also be going to a few games as well. You never know quite where to go, where the action is going to be. But it's a different landscape, as we said this year. There's some new teams up there. And not that bunch of teams right stuck in the middle there. Kentucky, Auburn, Florida, because we know the top guys. Which one of those 3 teams do you think will be a breakthrough team?
You can make a case for all of them. I hope it's not Kentucky, just because I want to see how many years Calipari can go out early, and the people there not revolt, because it's been a while. Kentucky pressure comes with being a Kentucky coach, but he's got to be feeling it this year because they got to do more than just get in and another quick exit. Man, it's going to be interesting. He's also got that lifetime contract where they pay him. I'm sure it's probably Jimbo Fisher money to leave.
Yeah, well, there's a name of the past, Jimbo Fisher. Wow.
Yeah, right.
Talking about a guy disappearing act. He's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone. Brutal. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but and I don't want to sound too provincial here, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Florida made it to at least Elite 8 kind of thing.
Well, there you go. I agree with that. And then we started to cut David off. We got our buddy Lauren Meadows standing by there in their green room and orange and blue room. I want to tell you about North Central Florida's newest premier independent diagnostic testing facility. Excited to let you know about Titan MRI, now open, serving the greater Gainesville and North Central Florida area. They're focused on you, the patient, having the great customer service experience. Those people have a busy life, and we have regular hours there for you, business hours at Titan MRI, but they're available by appointment in evenings and weekends in order to meet your scheduling needs. No insurance, no problem. You can use cash or card, same day service. Check them out. Titan MRI, Bethe.com. And now to the Orange and Blue Room. Thank you for this man waiting patiently the whole time. Couldn't bring him on because we had tape here. That's our buddy Lauren Meadows joins the program. Good evening to you, Lauren.
How you doing, buddy?
Well, heck, I'm doing. I didn't get the final score, but I see they had an inside the park home run. I'm not sure the final score. Florida, no doubt, lost to FSU. I would suspect it was 11-9 or something when I saw it last time. So let me talk to you about basketball for a second, if I may, or
yes,
whatever
sir.
you want to talk about.
No show.
Well, I mean, I know you went to South Carolina. You wrote a nice piece on women's basketball, and you wrote about Kelly Ray, and I'm a fan of Kelly Ray's as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what a tough way to lose that game. She gets her star player hurt on a blocked charge, which I guess was the foul. And I thought she had a concussion because she hit her head so hard on the floor. I didn't think she'd be back, but it was enough to knock her off her game. And she was, she would never did get back on a game. And then Zippy Broughton stepped up and played really great. They played hard. They just couldn't get it done. They were outmanned by a team that's beaten them twice before, now 3 times. And but I think overall, as you pointed out, progress shown by Kelly Ray Finley. I know you believe that.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the game against Ole Miss. It was a couple times where, and Franz kind of talked about it too. I mean, just the officiating, the way the tournament was officiated was extremely physical. Florida knew that going in. I talked to some of the assistants prior to the game, and they knew that Ole Miss was going to be in a certain physicality. But I think the injury to Matharu at that point in time in the game, and like you said, I thought she had a concussion too. They took her back to the locker room. She gutted it out. I mean, she's a tough Washington, D.C. kid. And, they just, when they lost Rashea Kyle, they just lost that size that they needed. And it really showed against teams like Ole Miss and a couple others where late in the game, you just needed that key rebound. They had a point in the game where I think Florida was up by 2, and then they literally gave Ole Miss 4 chances at the ring. It ended with an and one and put them up, and then that was kind of it. But definitely proud of the way that the Gators played. Kelly Ray is building; she's recruiting very well, and they're going to be pretty good next year as well. I mean, they got a lot coming back. Rashea Kyle, if she can come back from the knee injury, but everything it seems to be going in the right direction. And I want to give Kelly Ray kudos, and I don't do this much, and I'm not a big person that likes to talk about other coaches, but if you look at the behavior of the Ole Miss coach versus the behavior of Coach Finley, I mean, there was a couple times where any ref with any guts would have gave Coach Yo a tech, and it just kind of, it's unfortunate because it almost seemed like the powers that be wanted to see an Ole Miss LSU semifinal versus say Florida LSU final. And, it's unfortunate because, Kelly and her staff prepared extremely well. They were ready, and it's just unfortunate, but I think they're in the right place, and, they'll be in the postseason. They got a slim chance to make the NCAA tournament, but should be in the WBIT, that's the inaugural year for that. So, they could make a run. I mean, they got a great basketball team and as competitive as anybody. And, it just, just like Kelly said in the press conference, about 8 possessions throughout the entire year. And that's a 20+ win basketball team.
Yeah. All right. So let's shift over to men's. I've said this till I'm blue in the face and people are sick of it. But what happened to Florida in the last 4 ticks, especially that last game at Vanderbilt, I know they shouldn't have ever got to that position to have jeopardized themselves. And then, of course, the phantom call that everybody knows wasn't a foul. It's basketball. It happens. They miss them. But what really upset me was the way the last 4 seconds played out. And to have a coach come on the floor and stop the play when the other team has no timeouts to reset their out-of-bounds play is just horribly wrong. And I mean, I hope he gets fined for that. I mean, he knew what he was doing. It's gamesmanship, and here was, and here was Todd with no timeouts left and couldn't adjust his play. And what happened? They threw the ball in bounds and didn't get a shot off. And, and that was Bush League. I guess it was gamesmanship. That really kind of assaulted me.
Yeah, I agree. I was watching it, and I thought that. I mean, I was on the way back actually from Greenville during that, and so I was kind of shouldn't have been, but I was driving and watching it.
Of course,
and
Marcia's not listening. I hope she's gone to bed.
Yeah, she wasn't. Yeah, she's. Yeah. But I mean, as it played out, and I really couldn't hear. I thought that that Stackhouse had called like a 20 or something.
Yeah, he didn't have any, did he?
When they went back, I was like, what just happened?
Yeah,
and
really.
and it was almost like it was almost in a way like go to the monitor and see if he came out of the floor and give him a tech. I mean, it was like
exactly.
It was just,
that's exactly the right call. That's exactly
go to the monitor, see exactly what he did.
Yeah.
But don't stop play with nothing and just say, "Oh, okay, coach," and then go back because, like you said, that it's extremely Bush League. I'm sure that that's a trick up his sleeve that he learned from Dean Smith or maybe one of the coaches that he played for in the NBA or something.
Not Dean Smith. Not Dean Smith.
Well,
it's not a Dean Smith move. No.
Well, then if that's the case, then somewhere down the line, and it just really put a damper on, But like I said, I go back to the officials' ability to maintain order, and if I'm the head of officials, and when those grades come out, those guys would be done for the postseason.
Yeah,
they would not be reffing this weekend in Nashville.
I agree.
I mean, you got to hold them accountable. And that's the only way you can is to keep these officials out of bowl games, out of postseasons, and they don't get the high profile games. So that's the way you got to do it.
Yeah, and I'm not an official baiter. I don't get after him. Francis does that department wrapped up pretty well. I hardly ever talk about him. But to have someone do something like that is so egregious and over the top that it directly impacted the outcome of the game by his actions on the floor is just wrong. And I hope the commissioner finds him for it and says no more of that. The next guy goes on the court like that to stop the clock, we're going to fine him $50,000. That'll stop it. Anyway, that was my take on that.
Right. And it could have been, I mean, maybe Sankey put out an internal, I mean, surely he was watching, keeping track of the games. I saw him there in Greenville. But like I said, I mean, the big thing is it's on the referees to maintain the order of that total operation. And I think they should be, sanctioned or reprimanded. And like I said, it'd be, you lose your ability, you use your, you don't get the postseason, you don't get the NCAA tournament. You got plenty of refs, so those three can go fly a kite for this year and be back. And I'm with you, buddy. I mean, I'm one of those people that if you are dependent on the refs to help you win a football game, that's like looking in your couch for nickels and dimes to pay rent. I mean, you got to go out and make plays. I mean, you get it all the time from Florida fans for football and things like that. And I'm like, go out and make plays. And like you said, it shouldn't have never come down to that, but it was an issue, just something that you don't see every day. And that's why I think that, it's so so
I've got a couple of good friends that done a lot of fishing at a high level. One of his passed now. He had 7 Final Fours. My other friend had 6. That's how good they were. And he was my fraternity brother. And he always taught me, to the victor, to the aggressor goes the victory. If you want to win the game, be aggressive in late and take the game to them. Don't sit back and wait for somebody to give you a break on a call. Try to win the game. And so, anyway, don't get me started on officials. I promise I'd never get into that because when you get into that game, there's no end to it. So they lost the game. They got to reboot. Now what are they going to do? They got a shot here. And in a way, if they don't get to the finals, that's probably not a bad thing either. Gives them an extra day's rest or so. How do you see this thing playing out in the SEC when it starts tomorrow? Thursday for Florida.
I mean, they got a nice opportunity. I mean, I think that I mean, if you look at the draw, and they'll play the winner of who? That's
Georgia and what's the other? Georgia's playing who? Missouri.
They got
they play the winner of that
of Georgia, Missouri. So two teams that they are clearly better than,
right.
And and then like I said, once you get to that Friday, I mean, they already put foot in Alabama, and I think they know that on a neutral floor, I think they can play with Alabama, by far, and so I think that because I think they found out that Alabama kind of plays positionless basketball, and sometimes that can get you in trouble, as you saw, because Curtis Samuel and Condon and Heinloglin kind of had their way that second time around. But yeah, I mean, I think that, and I'm a person that I at this point in time, I'm kind of like with Jim Valvano, and you remember that run? I think it was '83 where they
I was there at Albuquerque.
Okay, they won the ACC and kind of kept rolling and never lost again.
And they ran into Phi Slama Jama. We all thought it'd be a massacre.
Right. But they, remember they had to win the ACC to get in the tournament.
Yeah.
And then, so, my thing is I like to win. Hoopers hoop. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If you're a basketball player, you hoop. So if you got to play an extra game or you play, one day of rest to me, to hoopers is no big deal. So, I would like to see them win the SEC and then take that momentum on into the tournament, in my opinion.
And give me a T-shirt that says "Hoopers Hoop." That's good. I like that.
That's what you do, man.
It's what you do. All right, so we'll see how that. There's no question that Todd Golden's had a fantastic year. It's a shame to see him in the top 25 now for 3 weeks or whatever it's been, 4 weeks, and then get down to the end after a big win over Alabama. Mm-hmm. Go in there and lose to Vanderbilt and get dropped out of the top 25. And I know it's not going to affect the seeding that much, but still, when you scratch and claw and fight, and it just seems like this is the way Florida sports is. They get up there and they drop off. So let's hope that they sustain, because they got some terrific talent, and he's done a heck of a job. So wish him all the best.
Buddy, you've been watching the sport a long time. They're the 6th best team and arguably the best conference in basketball this year. Mm-hmm. Are you telling me there's 25 basketball teams better than Florida?
No.
Absolutely not. No. So, I mean, those rankings, I don't even know why they do them in basketball, because it really doesn't matter.
Well, during the middle of the season, it's an indication of progress for a team trying to break through. And they had a breakthrough, and they got to the top run. So it's a milestone. It doesn't mean anything other than you're getting better, and you need to know that. So,
but I think, I mean, you look at the wins they've had, I think that's as much progress. And like I said, I mean, I don't think there's been 25 teams better than Florida the entire year.
Oh, my gosh, no. Yeah. Dan brings up a good point here, our buddy Dan. That late game on Thursday, that's always a problem. And that's it's going to be the winner of the Georgia Missouri game. So we'll see how that turns out. All right, so from there, and we'll see where they go. I think they're an Elite 8 team if they play the way they can play. Now,
I agree.
Football.
I agree. Second weekend for sure.
Yes, football is still paramount around here. We do football all the time.
Yes,
I've not gotten to a practice. I've seen some video. You know my stance on DJ Lagway. I admit it's a love at first sight thing. I've been talking about it now for 3 or 4 days. And I liken it to sometimes when you see somebody, something clicks, and you say, this kid's got something special. I don't mean just a good player, but an exceptional talent that could really move the team in a forward position and could be a difference maker in the program. Now, I can't prove that. I can tell you some stats out there which don't mean anything. We know it was routes on the air. We know they haven't really played anybody there. But to me, based on what I've seen, and Lauren, you're a coach, you will know what a guy looks like on the hoof. You don't make jump to conclusions. And we all know the guys can look like a ball player and not be a ball player. But when you see a ball player, you see a guy who looks like you think that'll look, watch how he carries himself, the composure he has, the zip he puts on the ball, the accuracy, the way he does it. I liken it to looking at a guy is for Tiger Woods golf swing. I mean, or whoever, you see a great golf swing, you know there's something there. Now, all my friends tell me I'm crazy, and that's fine. I'll live with that. I just can't wait to see this guy on the field. I think he's going to be a difference maker. And look, if they throw the ball around the field and score 5 or 6 touchdowns, the defense won't become a problem. That's just my position. I really am excited about DJ Lagway. I knew he was going to be special. I've seen all the high school video, but see him in the Gator uniform and watching him throw, that was special.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of pose it this way, buddy, and I'm with you. I was going to tell you, when I was coaching, I had a young man that played for me, ended up going out to play for Bill Snyder at Kansas State, was the top receiver in the state of Ohio his senior year. And when he was a junior, that was my first year at the school, I saw him run a comeback. And I was like, oh, that's different. That it doesn't look like that. So I know what you're getting at. And I'll put it this way. Let me ask you this. If what you see in Lagway, let me ask you this, and I guess this is a way you can kind of answer me, because you wrote about it and you're all in. Your chips are on the table. Is he Tim Tebow? Is he Werfel? Is he, or is he Rex Grossman? Or would you put him, do you see him reaching that level of special? Or is he Chris Lee, Doug Johnson, that level in your mind?
That's a great question. I thought about that a lot. In terms of a player, he reminds me of a guy named John Reeves.
Okay.
He was a big, strapping guy who could bring it had a great arm. And he should have been, he played for the Eagles. He should have been all world. And the reason he didn't do better, his sophomore year against Carlos Alvarez, took a team. They should have won the SEC. If you want to talk about missing rings, the book at Alabama, Missing Rings, listen to this. In '69, when Alvarez and Reeves, the super softs, came aboard, and everybody who follows Florida football knows the story, is they opened the season against Houston, with ranked in a preseason poll by Playboy or somebody. Number one, they ranked them. They routed Houston. Opening game, Alvarez to Reeves, third play of the game, 70-yard bomb. And they played that way all year. They wound up winning 9 games, more than anybody. Well, actually won 8 games, and then 1-1 because they didn't play that many games. And so they ended up going to the Gator Bowl, to play the SEC champion, coached by Doug Dickey, who was going to be the next coach of Florida. And they beat him. Now, think about this. You beat the champions. That makes you the champion, really, technically, even though they didn't get that.
Right,
so they were good. And Reeves was a tremendous player. I mean, he had all the throws and moves strong. And he reminds me a little bit of him, not as shot. Reeves is more swashbuckling and a little bit more cocky, and this kid's not. But physically, he's gifted. The way he carries himself, I love how he carries himself. I like what I've read he said. I just think this kid's, it's as much a feeling as anything else, You get a feeling about a guy. This guy is the guy.
I'll tell you this, buddy, and I'll tell you what impresses me most about. I haven't seen him. I met him at. I was actually at the USF softball and down in Tampa, and he was there with his trainer or somebody, and he was watching and very, very even keeled, low key. But what impressed me the most is in a day and age where it's all about look at me, what can I do, what can I get?
Yeah.
He never wavered from the game.
I hear you.
Never wavered. And has been steadfast, has been classy. And to me, that's a young man that can lead men on the football field. That's a leader.
And that's the thing I didn't mention was leadership. He will be a leader.
Right. And do I think that DJ Lagway is going to be a good player at the University of Florida? Absolutely. I'm not even going to say I don't agree with you there. It's just, I think that, a lot of us that have coached and have been around the game and you played the game and you've covered it, it's just wait and see because, and I guess maybe for me is what will his role be? And you and I both know when it comes to, with all due respect with Coach Napier, to sit here and speculate what Coach Napier is going to do with him, we'd be wasting our breath, because you and I both know we don't get much. So, we could speculate and say, well, this is what I would do with him. And I would have a couple little special wrinkles in with him. And, and it wouldn't just be have him run the ball on the quarterback counter. I mean, I'd have a package in there where he could come in and
he's going to play every game. He's going to play in every game. Yeah.
So
and I hear what you're saying.
You think he'll play every game and burn a red shirt? You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the deal. That's what I hear. He's going to play someone every game.
Okay. All right. Well, then
you can't afford to wait around anymore. These kids.
Right.
They can transfer.
Yeah. Well, I would be shocked as steadfast as he's been, more than anybody. I mean, he wasn't a signing day commit. I mean, he'd been locked and loaded.
Oh yeah. No, there's no doubt about it.
Since before we went out to Utah. So, right. I mean, I think I think he's in, but it'll be interesting, buddy. Yeah. I will tell you this. No matter what, and you know as well as I do, the respect I have for you, I will make sure that everybody knows that I talked to that Buddy Martin jumped on it before anybody.
Nah, I don't care about that. Here's the thank you for that, though. I appreciate your loyalty. Here's the thing. Here's what Andy McIntosh says, and he's right. He's got to play every game. Let me tell you about coaches. I've been around them all my life. I love them. As a group of guys, since I was a kid, whatever, I love coaches. They're dedicated people. But there's a danger of coaches getting locked in on Coach Think. Coach Think, because that's the way they were taught. That's the way this is how it works like this. And I've seen it happen many, many times. I've seen coaches make bad decisions on players, bad decisions on game plans, bad decisions on their career, because they're thinking like a coach and that they don't know how to do anything else. And I think sometimes when you get a player like this guy, throw the Coach Think out the window. Stop thinking it that way. Hey, if the guy's good enough, let him start. I don't care.
You ain't got time to be. I'm with you now. I'm not losing no game, so Graham Mertz feels. Yeah. If he beats Graham Mertz, he beats out Graham Mertz.
Right.
I'm not losing no games because I'm playing my best 22. Period. Yeah. I mean, I'm dancing with who brung me. Don't. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So, anyway, I see David's comment about Lagway. Well, he's special, and I know I'll be accused of being over my skis on this, and that's okay. I've decided to take the bullets on it if you want to. You got to see. Look, when you're a coach and you go to scout a game, and you come back, and I say, Lauren, what do you got? They love to run off tackle. I'm telling you, that's their whole offense. If you stop that, you got it. People say, hey, they love to throw the ball too, man. What do you mean? And then you go, you see it, and you say it. Right? You say what you believe, Absolutely. And so I'm not a coach. I just see, and I do love Graham Mertz for what he did and what he is. I'm not talking about taking his job away or whatever. The duo thing is a big plus. It's a great situation to have him there. And Mertz has made a couple of comments about the fact that he was really impressed how this kid handled himself in his conversations. He's a quick learner. He wants to learn. He's like a sponge. So, again, I'm not ready to start the statue just yet. We'll wait on that. But I just wanted to say, sometimes you see something, and it's like to say about police work, when you see something, say something.
Well, yeah. I mean, we go back to what we just talked about. I'm a person, you'll hear a lot and you talk about Coach Think. I hated and I can't remember who said it. I think it was a pretty legendary coach said, if you got two quarterbacks, you got none. I don't subscribe to that because obviously you saw it in the flesh. Urban technically had two and they won the whole thing. So I don't, there are plenty of examples.
He had a plan. He didn't really have
two.
Right.
Right. I get that. But I go back to like what you said, and I think that's the best way to look at it is eventually, what do we think DJ Lagway? It's not about building him a statue and things like that. It's about where will he line up in the pantheon of Florida quarterbacks, and we've had a bunch. So where will he be down the road? And what
He'll
you're
be
saying,
one of the greats. He'll be one of the greats.
he's gonna be one of the greats. Now, one of the greats at Florida could put you. I mean, you could be pretty good, you know.
But look,
so
I
think
remember,
I think we leave it. I think if we leave it at that, buddy, you're safe. I think that's.
I'm going to add this one caveat and say goodnight to you. As much as I enjoy the conversation, again, I go back to the days of John Elway. You can't imagine what it was like when Denver got John Elway. I remember that when I was driving home the night after the trade was announced, the day the Broncos had gotten Elway, and Elway came to the press conference, and I was there. And I remember how the whole city of Denver was rejuvenated because they hadn't had one since Craig Morton took over the Super Bowl. He wasn't that good. And for all those years, they waited for a quarterback, and they finally got a guy. Back in those days, Larry King was on at midnight at night. And I remember a guy calling in from Denver. I was driving home saying, at last, we got us a quarterback. So happy. It's the whole rejuvenation thing. So now you have this guy coming in. They had Steve DeBerg. Remember him? Played forever. It was their quarterback at that time with Dan Reeves going for him. And in summer camp, we all went to summer camp. We used to go up there and stay for 3 weeks at a time in Greeley. And I remember everybody asking, Elway was like, everybody wanted to know about Elway. Where's he get his haircut? What shoes does he wear? What kind of car? It's all Elway. And DeBerg was, of course, the guy. And one day we were talking about when would John Elway take the reins? Which is all we're talking about here. When is he going to take the reins? And DeBerg said something so brilliant that it got lost. He said, come a day, he said, when John Elway's talent will be an overriding factor of my experience. He will overtake me in his talent over experience. When that day comes, he'll have the job. He got the job. He started the season. And he went to Pittsburgh. And then the first series came out of the huddle, lined up to take the snap, and found himself behind a guard.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was at that game. I remember it well. Yeah, and what a great player. So my point is that win is win. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not making that prediction. I don't know. I don't think he'll take the starting job this year. But you got to be willing to if he's the best, if you want to win. Lauren, as always, great stuff, buddy. I appreciate it very much.
Can I make a public
service?
Sure,
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
And you kind of led the show with it. This is to all my Florida fans. If you live within, I'm going to say, a 2-hour radius of the University of Florida, it is time to get behind Kelly Ray Finley and this women's basketball team. They made it to the third round of the SEC tournament. They are one of the top teams in the conference and will be. Tickets are $5. You come, you sit where you want to. But the lack of Florida had less support than anybody at that tournament. And it's time to get behind them. So, that's my fan hat for the night. I don't put that on much, but
no, you don't.
It is time to get behind this team. The product is good. Kelly is as open with her program as any coach on campus, and the girls are great. She's building a class program. It is time to start getting out, getting in those seats, and supporting this basketball team. They deserve it.
Well said, Lauren. Appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you, buddy.
You can read him in the area mirror. See you on Thursday night, Orange Blue Bloods, all right?
Yeah. All right.
The great Lauren Meadows. Thanks, Lauren. All right, folks, I want to wrap it up by saying thank you to all of you for listening tonight and watching, to David Whitley for our first half of the show, and certainly to Lauren Meadows, who's always, we're missing a couple of people this week because they're on spring break, whatever, but tomorrow night we have the Sweet and Sour team back. Allie will be back, and David Moulton, and of course on Thursday, Orange and Blue Bloods will join us too. Don't forget to check out Brendan Martin and Rob on Rob Brown on SEC Silence every morning at 9 after Shane Matthews, and of course you'll hear Rob here on Mondays with us. Excuse me. Wow. That's that Thai food I had tonight. It was very good. Okay. I want to tell you about our friends at RentStar, who've been very supportive of our community in Ocala and also of sports and of this program. You know about clinical trials. They exist to help us get better medical treatment and get them safely, that medical treatment safer, safely, because that's how they find out which ones work the best. I'll get this out in a minute. I wanted to just tell you that you should know that the folks at RentStar do a great job on those clinical trials they have. They want you to join them and take part in them, and you can get these therapies to the public safely. And the clinical trials would not exist without the commitment of you as volunteers. If you decide to participate, you'll receive study-related medications and procedures at no charge to you or your insurance. You go to rentstar.net and find out how you can qualify. You may have compensation for time and travel. Might also get investigational medications, devices, none otherwise available to other people. So RentStar Medical Research is dedicated to bringing new opportunities to participate in the medical science to our local community. An important part of that commitment is helping you answer your questions by volunteering for a clinical trial. Check it out. Go to rentstar.net, look at the frequently asked questions section, and find out how you might be able to qualify. RentStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks, folks. Good show tonight. Thank you for the guests and for the sponsors. Talk to you tomorrow night. Sweet and sour coming up.